For the moment, I want to talk to a gentleman who's been covering the Saints for quite some time, and he covers it and talks some football and New Orleans Saints for The Athletic. Larry Holder here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Larry?
Hey, Rich. How are you today?
I appreciate you taking the time because I want to find out best I can as to what happened yesterday when Drew Brees and the Saints met virtually. What happened yesterday? Best you can tell, Larry.
Well, look, I think the process even started before they met, where Drew Brees put out his apology publicly on Instagram. You started seeing players on the Saints respond positively to that. And look, you get into the call, and not a lot of people wanted to talk about this on the record or anything, from those I tried to reach out to. But they just said it was a conversation where, it was real life. And look, from what I understand, Drew Brees apologized, and look, some people have taken it well, and I think it's going to take some time still for others to accept it. And I think what you started seeing kind of trickle out on Twitter for those who wanted to kind of put it out there publicly. Someone like Michael Thomas said, look, we accept his apology and they want to see more. And I think that's the way it's going to have to be, for Drew Brees right now. And Rich, it's really just something when a couple of days ago I see on St. Charles Avenue, where people celebrate Mardi Gras, this, that, and the other, and there are protests, and there's video of Bleep Drew Brees. And, I mean, it is a strong change of opinion in this town, much less just inside the locker room. And I think that Drew Brees, I think he's genuine in his apologies, but I think he knows that he needs to do more, and his teammates internally have encouraged him to do so. And I think he will do that.
Well, I mean, in terms of the raw feelings of it, you need look no further than Malcolm Jenkins' social media feeds. Malcolm, who was part of the team when Brees and Sean Payton did what they did together in the city of Miami to bring a championship to the city of New Orleans, after which you could say Drew Brees would have a restaurant a restaurant reservation at any time, at any place for the rest of his life. Malcolm Jenkins putting a very raw emotional video out that he said he posted even after talking to Brees because he felt the need to put it out there. And that's where I thought, okay, this is different. This is a serious situation that's going down in that locker room, Larry.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think Malcolm's emotions, I think part of it is that he has a lot of respect for Drew Brees.
Yes.
And that it really hurt him because he played alongside with him, views him like, the view of Drew Brees, it's almost, for a lot of people's eyes, it's taken a 180. He's someone who has, been relatively Scotchgard his entire career. And for this to come out at this point in time really hurt a lot of people that he respected. And that, I've covered Drew Brees for 15 years. And but here's the thing, his stance at that moment in time did not surprise me because that was his stance back when Colin Kaepernick was kneeling during the national anthem, and other players were doing so a few years ago. But it seems that because his stance is so rigid that it's certainly really taken people aback. Specifically, a couple of guys, like you say, Malcolm Jenkins, Demario Davis, both of those two players have been out in the forefront. And I will say, though, that because that they are in the locker room with Drew Brees, I think those are two of the most important people that Drew Brees can talk to and discuss this and move forward and try to mend fences, really, because this is something that in so many people's eyes is going to stick with him as part of his legacy. I mean, that's just what this is.
Well, I mean, and that's the way it feels right now. That's for sure.
Right.
And it'll be brought up, because there's still too many people talking past one another, Larry. And by that I mean a whole host of individuals who heard what Brees had to say 2 days ago and say, well, what's wrong with him saying that we wants to stand for the national anthem and it's a call for unity for him. It's because what he said is that he would never agree with anybody who didn't do that, meaning he hasn't heard what his teammates who were kneeling or were planning on kneeling said 3 years ago. He didn't absorb it. And then there are many people who are saying, well, you know, why do people want to kneel on a flag when they disrespect it? And it's just, no, we're not, you're still not hearing why they're doing it. And Brees may hear it when he walks in to the Nitschke luncheon at the Hall of Fame the year he's in. He may hear it from some truly old guard guys in the league that he still didn't hear it back in 2017 and said it in 2020. So what do you think? What do you think he's going to do? I mean, what do you think he's going to be about it, Larry? I know that's a large question to ask, but I don't know if you're hearing anything already about it.
Well, I'll just look. I'm sure he's going to. He's going to want to look. He goes full bore in everything he does in life, whether it's on the field, off the field. So
Right.
he needs to fully go all full bore. But here's one of the problems I think he's going to run into. Look, he's going to get some of the respect within his locker room back. I'm sure there are going to be people, even in this side of the locker room, who are thinking, well, all right, good thing this is Drew Brees' last year, and then we can move past this. I mean, there are probably people thinking that. And then people outside of the locker room who don't really know him are not going to buy what he's going to be doing. And that is something that I don't know the answer to that. Like, I don't know how he can change some people's minds who have never played with him, who have never, really talked with him. They just see him as this superstar athlete who's, a white superstar athlete who's made millions and millions and millions of dollars. And after he said this, how can he turn and say this? And, so I don't have a good answer for you, Rich. I mean, I don't, it's going to come down to each individual person if you think that what he is going to do after this is genuinely what he thinks. And, that's something that I never thought we would have to say about someone who is so revered in this community. I mean, he was bigger than life in this community, and now all of a sudden people are chanting "Bleep you" on St. Charles Avenue. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Also, in the fact that I got some responses on my Twitter feed because I've been talking about it, or our YouTube feed. Larry, by the way, Larry Holder, the Athletic Saints columnist here on the Rich Eisen Show. People are like, "Well, Drew, you got to put your money where your mouth is." It's just like, okay, well. A couple of weeks ago, he and his wife put $5 million into the community to fight COVID-19 relief, and now we'll see what happens next. So, based on what you've heard, things were what yesterday? Raw, rocky, and then smooth. I mean, is there any details of what anybody's come out of that virtual meeting saying that you can
I would
pass
say
along?
Raw is probably a good way, and Drew Brees, I mean, he's had to sit there and apologetic and basically hear out what people were saying. And I mean, that's the best way he could do it right now because, let's be honest. Look, you're going to have people that you've really hurt badly that are going to literally have to watch your back on a football field. And I mean, that's, you got to start there. And so, I do feel like that, say inside this locker room, that people will respect the player he is and move forward and look, battle it out on the football field and do that. Some people will take that respect going forward. And I still think that maybe some people will never do that ever again. And, it's like I said, it's an each and individual thing within the people within that locker room. And, it's, you can't, it's hard to argue with them either way. Like, which way do you want to go? I mean, it's really just kind of up to what you feel in your heart and what you feel about what he has to say and the actions that he's going to do. And so, I've talked to even former players yesterday that weren't never on the Saints, this, that, and the other, and they said they have never seen anything like this ever happen publicly, so publicly, where your own really just turned against you publicly for something that you've done. And I don't have all the answers yet. I don't know when we're going to have all the answers, and I think that's but I do think it's a discussion. It also pushes a discussion to be had in this community and around the world, just about everything that's going on right now, to be honest.
Of course. So before I let you go, since I promised my listeners and viewers, and I mean it, that we're going to go into the sports bubble more today than we have in quite some time with everything going on in the real world. Prior to all this, conversation was Taysom Hill was the next guy up when Drew Brees would move on to NBC. Is that the case? Is that what's going on there, Larry?
I feel like that is going to be what happens, and it's funny. A few weeks ago we're talking about Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston, and no one's talking about Drew Brees, and it's just a wild twist of events. But I think all signs point to Taysom Hill, even with Jameis Winston coming in. Jameis Winston's under a 1-year deal. Taysom Hill is under a 2-year deal. I think Sean Payton's affection for Taysom Hill has just grown as we've moved forward. And I think Jameis Winston, is someone that they look at as like Teddy Bridgewater, who comes in, and if they need him just in case, if something would happen to Drew Brees and he would get injured or something like that, that Jameis would be the same thing as Teddy Bridgewater, and Taysom Hill would assume the same role. But Sean Payton is extremely confident that Taysom Hill can be their guy once Drew Brees is gone. And I'm still under the assumption that this is Drew Brees' last year. So that none of this has changed any. I'm still under that assumption.
Yeah, I mean, my gosh, there's some people who thought he shouldn't even be playing this year because of what's happened over the last 24, 48 hours. I'm not one of them. But you're hearing, I believe Shannon Sharp said that Drew should retire and that he's not welcome there anymore or shouldn't be, regardless of his apology.
If you go look at the likes of that tweet of Shannon Sharp, Marshawn Lattimore liked the tweet, like that Drew Brees should retire. So I think that kind of partially shows you that not everything is smoothed over yet. So, just that in and of itself is just a small sign that not everything is completely smoothed over. So then, and who knows when it will be.
I know, Larry. I mean, my gosh. So, and especially since it does not appear that any face-to-face conversations are going to be had in the NFL until training camp hits. What are you hearing about that before I let you go? Certainly in the state of Louisiana, New Orleans was a considerable hot spot back in April, as many cities and municipalities were. What are you hearing about the Saints and a playing season? Because Brady versus Brees is going to be a week 1 contest that the whole free football world is now definitely going to be tuned into. We knew they'd be beforehand, but for sure, lots of interest to see how Brees looks with his teammates in that game. Yeah,
well, as far as just in that, I do look. I think Louisiana has done a really good job of kind of calming down the COVID-19, and so people have done a good job social distancing, this, that, and the other. So, and the numbers have dropped considerably per capita since when it first started. Like you said, it was one of the hot spots. But I still think that the first time they get face-to-face will be training camp. Look, Sean Payton was way out in front of that, saying, let's be healthy and this, that, and the other. And so I don't think, that's necessarily going to change much. Look, I'm curious to see if Drew Brees gets workouts together. I mean, typically that happens.
Yep.
I'm curious to see if he does that. And if he does, I think it would be a good ground for him to have discussions with Michael Thomas or Alvin Kamara or Emmanuel Sanders or players like that who came out and certainly questioned is a nice term to put it, questioned
right.
His approach to his stance.
Well, it does sound like something Brees would do, right? Like, hey, let's send a plane and get everybody going.
I would think that is something that he would do, yeah. But we don't know yet.
Thanks for the call, Larry Holder. Once again, thanks for coming back on. Thank you.
Rich, appreciate you having me once again.
You got it. That's Larry Holder, The Athletic.